Season 9, episode 30, 378, the Decoded Podcast, just talking about hobbies. And as soon as you said that word, it reminded me of a recent experience I had. I was we have a memory box in the living room, and I was going through the memory box. Yeah, it's kind of funny, actually. It seems as though
You know what's funny? Sorry, you know what's funny? That I've now known you. Here's what I love. I've now known you, for like 12 years?
I guess.
You've never mentioned this before.
It's about.
I'm not allowed in your house, so it's not like I would ever notice it. Like I'm like, what's that on the coffee table? Like, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to tell you about that, Clough. That's the memory box.
Even if you came into my house, you wouldn't notice it.
Oh no? Okay.
No, because it's
walk me through this.
It's not just out and about. It's in I don't know what to call this thing. We have an organizer on the wall, and it's just sitting in there. So I guess we got it when we got married. When we were married, somebody gave us this big box, and I call it a memory box. It's probably called a photo box. I don't know what it's technically called, but what we've been doing with it since we got it is, it seems to me like every year when we would get our class photos, and our kids would get their hockey or soccer photos or their school photos, we take the photos and I just kind of throw them in the box. So anything that is like, it's just photos, but certain types of photos, right? It's not any kind of photo. It tends to be each family member and their school photos or their sports photos. So anyway, I don't know why, but recently I know why, because I was searching for evidence. I was searching for evidence of this one kid who's in this picture, and I could not find a class photo with him in it. I could not find like a first communion photo with him in it. And I thought, well, that's where the photos would be, because that's where I put stuff over the years. That's the other thing too, like anything to do with work. So when I taught little kids first communion, graduations, whatever, they all go in that. They just get thrown in the box or on top of the box. I'm going through the box, and I get to the bottom of the box. And what's at the bottom of the box? An artifact of when I engaged in the hobby of stained glass creations. So I have in the box one of the first stained glass art that I made. And there's one here in the house. I made one, gave it to my mom, and they're about the size of this photograph. And there's different colored glass, and it's all welded together kind of thing. So when you're talking about hobbies, many years ago at my first house, before I had kids, my next door neighbor, great guy, he was a cop, very eccentric. He used to do stained glass for fun. I'm like, teach me, show me. So he did. And then I got involved. I bought the materials, I bought the parts, and in my basement, I would make stained glass art. So it's just interesting that you talked about your hobby. And I'm like, hey, I used to have one of those a long time ago, and one that nobody would ever imagine me doing, stained glass. There you go, bro. While we're at it, did I ever tell you that I used to play the bagpipes?
No.
I used to play the bagpipes. I had my own set. I had an instructor when I lived in Ottawa. Many years ago, I was on Parliament Hill on Canada Day, and I was with my friend. My friend was in the military, and he was in the reserves. Long story short, call me Frank. For his summer job in the military, he was a driver for the commanding officer of the Governor General Foot Guards. So whenever he was on the hill, I would go to see him. And when he wasn't like working, he was just kind of staying there and the guards were doing their thing, we would chat and chew the fat and talk. He was a high school friend of mine. And the one day we were standing, Canada Day, and the Canadian Air Force pipes and drums were doing their thing. And then when they were done, I was kind of in a back area where I wasn't supposed to be, but I was with him. And they were getting on their bus to leave. And I started talking to one of them. And she was like, I teach on the side. So if you want to learn, give me a call. I'll teach you. And I started learning. I see her once a week, and yeah. So I've done a couple of things in my time that people would never really be like, you did what? They're just so different, right? Learning to play the bagpipes, learning to do stained glass art. Now I podcast. That's a hobby.
No, it's good stuff.
Rochelle, good morning. Just popping in to say hi. Oh, dance competition in Chatham. Have a great weekend, you too.
Where's
luck.
Chatham?
Chatham, I want to say it's kind of Niagara Falls way.
Oh, is it?
I want to say that, but I'm going to look it up right now. Where is Chatham?
I don't know where that is.
Oh, located southwestern Ontario, but what's it? Oh, it's close. It lies between Windsor and London.
Okay.
Roughly an hour from the U.S. border.
All right. So I don't think I've ever been there.
I've driven past it, but I've never been in there.
I've been down the London Windsor way. I've been down, but I don't know if I've ever gone in it. I've only gone past London to go to Windsor to hang out with a friend, which we spend most of our time in Detroit.
I wonder why I thought it was close to Niagara.
I don't know.
Anyway, Chatham, Kent. Dance competition. It's craziness.
This past week I put up the countdown of the number of class days we have.
Oh wow.
In the year. I do that. This is all it's beginning with the end in mind. Here we go. I put it up for the students. They're like, what? Like, yep, 46 class days. I'm like, what's that mean? And I'm like, well, I'm not counting the weekends or the holidays. This is just the number of times you have to be in your classes. They're like, that's all? I'm like, yeah, that's all. Like, that's not even a month. I'm like, no, actually, it's more than a month. Like, let's do some, like, we'll do math. It's more than a month. And in order to do it, it's longer than a month, right? Because we're just coming up to midterm. But we've had a lot of conversations this past week. The conversations kind of started at the top of the semester, talking about how second semester feels faster than first semester. There's people would use the illusion of being on the backside of the hill, so we're kind of accelerating to summer. But I don't like to do that because I actually don't like the summer to be the centerpiece of my year. I'm starting to realize that. You know what I mean? Like I don't like how that works. Because the only reason summer is the centerpiece is because of the break it affords between the two semesters. But really, that's the only thing. That is the only thing. And some people would say, yeah, Cliff, that is the only thing. I'm like, but I don't like having I've talked a lot about this. It falls into that same mindset of I don't hang the success of my week on my weekend. Like I want my weekend days, just the relative scale of availability that I have for things that are interesting to me. That's all. That's the only sliding thing. It's not specifically that there's something super special about a Saturday or a Sunday. It just has to be different. In the same way, there's nothing super special about those 2 months in the year. It's just different. I have more time to me, sure. But as far as the next big transition for me, for my family, for my students, is this whole not having to be in this one spot for 8 hours a day. So then the question, it sort of begs the question, then what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it then? If you have this time, what are you going to do with it? Are you liking where you're at with your courses? How are you going to keep it? Are you not liking where you are with your courses? Can you even do anything about it? Some of my students get kind of swept up in the why bother? Why bother? This is this is my life. This is the way it goes. I'm like, man, no, it isn't. You can make change. You can adjust this. You got time to adjust it. Come on, let's get to this. Keeping that 47 days as something hopeful and useful for some of my students is pretty challenging. Oh, I got something in my freaking eye. I don't know if it's an eyelash.
I was going to say it's called an eyeball, Clough.
Yeah, I know, eh? Let's do science, Clough. Let's do science. I don't know why. It's just, you rub it and then it feels good. And then it's like, no, there's something still there. I'm guessing an eyelash. It's always an eyelash. It just feels like it's poking the shit out of your eyeball.
It makes sense. I get that.
So do you have any sense of that yet at school?
It's funny.
The impending, it's coming. Transition's coming.
It's funny that you should mention that, because just recently a student was in the room and said to me, do you know how many more school days we have left? And I was like, not offhand, but let me grab the calendar. And I walked away, and I have our school board school year calendar in the room
at a glance, right? That thing at a glance.
He's like, why do you even have that? I'm like,
it's like, why don't you?
It's fun. Yeah, it was like, he's like, you just have that laying around? I'm like, somebody asked a question about something at some point, so I printed it off. And what I like to do in the room is I like to print things off like that and put it on the board, so that, for example, there's a ton of stuff about how to get math help, right? Because there's always a kid in the room that's like, I'm failing math. What do I do? I'm like, well, come with me to the board, because I print stuff off and I put it there so that when kids like you ask me these questions, usually the answer is, I don't know. I don't want it to be, I don't know. So let me tell you what our school can do for you, right? Anyway, so I pulled it off, and we literally, I'm like, we're here. And I just started counting, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we got to the end, he just looked at me like, that's a lot of time. And I was like, well, take it how you will. That's what's left before exams start, right? So it was like, we didn't include the exam days. We didn't include any PD days or holidays. It was just school days. So it's kind of funny that you're bringing it up, because I also have a anchor on the board for me to reflect on and to use to show people how much time we have left. And I was actually thinking about this morning, thinking about the summer months, and just, there are things already filling up in the summer calendar. And like, we're not even that close to it, but family vacation, this and that and the other thing. It's like, I'm kind of feeling like, hey, something's already taking my summer away. It's not even here yet. But with this recent nicer weather, I've been getting more summer vibes.
Is it distracting to you at all?
No, it's not. No, there are things happening. I've got some things going on between now and like mid-May that really have my attention. So I'm not standing here looking at the end of June being like, let's go. I literally, there are markers between now and the middle of May that are like, that's got to get done. This is happening on this day, and it's kind of taking up my brain space to try to figure things out. Stuff like that. There's a lot of little things like that that are keeping me from looking too far ahead. And I'm okay with that. I don't care. It'll come. But if I focus on what's coming soon, then I can hopefully be effective with those things.
There is something not reassuring, but it's kind of in that genre of where it's something satisfying, reassuring, calming about having a solid schedule. Solid schedule. So you kind of, you wake up that day, have enough space to kind of just, you know, a little bit of unscheduled time, but then to also know, okay, got to do this. Now I got to do this. Now I got to do this. Like you can kind of clock all those options nice and cleanly. And I do like having days like that. Even the getting up and going into a day where free time shifts, like on a Saturday or Sunday or a holiday, I still like having things kind of mapped out. I'm becoming more and more uncomfortable with these days where I would sort of like I don't have as a strong appreciation for those times where like I got nothing to do, because I find that what happens, my brain just kind of goes mushy, or I eat too many snacks, or I just lay on the couch, which it's there's the after effect of having blown through that time. The regret has a deeper bit of feel to it than the pleasure of doing nothing. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Yeah, like to sitting there to watch the thing that I think that I wanted, which was just sitting there and binge watching or binge eating, whatever, one of the two, something like that, just is not as resonant as the feeling that I have afterwards of just like, what the F did I do? Why would I have blown that through time? Like the regret of not using the time more usefully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe that's a second half of life thing. And it's not, I don't say it because it's funny, I don't say it because like, oh my gosh, I've, you know, got X amount of time left on this planet. It's not dire like that, like I'm running out of time. It's more like, Clough, you know better. You know better. You know that, you know, in the two parallel universes, the one where you only watch one episode and then you move on to another task, that's a better universe than you sitting there and watching 10 episodes, dozing on the couch, cracking that second bag of chips. Like that, those two universes, they're not in direct competition always. And I don't always notice that there's a fork in the road to do that. But I have the wherewithal to know that the first version is actually one that's better for me. So just a bowl of chips in one episode is a better way to sort of waste my time than to sort of stay on in doing one thing for 3 hours. I think that's one of those, it's funny. Oh, maybe I got the eyelash out. I employ the same mindset too. Like, why the hell is this meeting 2 hours long? We've been here staying in this one space, stopped for 2 hours. How can that be? Was this a good use of all of our time? And sometimes that's just a conversation I have with myself, but it's the same thing. Like I listen to some people say, Karen coming home and talking about being in a meeting for 3 hours. I was like, why? And sometimes it's, well, that's just how long, that's the playing field for this type of meeting. And I would still say, why? Like, what's the criteria, the schedule? What's the program going on here where you would actually have to sit in one place for 3 hours? So, and often I find there isn't a clear thing. And there's obviously after the fact a huge amount of wasted time. And then people not getting to the point, people being overly emotional, people not having done the expected work ahead of time. So they arrive and they have to be educated as to whatever the context that everyone's kind of doing. So back to that, me wasting 3 hours on the couch, just sitting there with my dog, you know, snacking and watching a video. I tend to have a more palpable regret than, oh, I didn't have those extra chips. Why didn't I have those extra chips?
But was it really a waste?
Yes, in my mind. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I would say yeah. Because part of it is that if I didn't go into the moment with intent, then it's bound to be wasteful.
And I was going to say, I guess that would be, each person would have to define that for themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Because there's been a lot of time recently where I've been on the couch watching television with my wife. And yes, I could be doing schoolwork. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. And I'm reflecting on this now as we're talking about it. And I'm like, none of that, in my opinion, at this time was a waste. It was all, I think you're right. There's intention, there's purpose. It was quality time with my wife, it was entertainment. That's certainly not a waste. And those are the moments that I'm craving more now than I ever have before. Um, You and I have been talking a lot about my work and, like,
Mhm.
things happening at work that are kind of not driving me nuts, but
They're driving me nuts.
I've been I've
I
been
can admit
feeling
that your workplace drives me nuts more than my workplace drives me nuts.
I've been telling you so lately, maybe the last well, since transition meetings have started. Oh my god, they started in March, before March break, and, I've been like, what's the word I'm looking for? I I I've been unpredictable in my next move. Like, you brought to my attention that's I'm engaged in certain things at work that are not being directed by my superiors, which means I don't have to do them, which means I can go into a situation one day telling somebody, "Yeah, I'll do you a favor," and then the next day say, "I'm not doing that favor anymore." And I've been feeling this rush daily. Will I do what I the favor I said I would do, or will I not? And that's kind of it's been, visceral. And it's funny because some of the people around me are kind of aware of, "Oh, is he going to do this today, or is he not gonna do this today?" Now, I've been landing on the predictable side of doing what I say I'm gonna do, and that's I would say that's typically just me. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, then I'm gonna do it, especially, like, at work. So if you're like, "Hey, can you this?" Or, "Hey, we need you to do this." I'm like, "I'm on it. It'll get done, and I'll let you know when it's done." But there's been a little bit of time where I've said, "Yeah, I'll do that," and then I'm like, "You know what? I don't have to do that." And I'm not it's not a me being difficult, it's me being, "No, I'm not going to do that because I've thought about it, and today's not a good day for this, and I'm not compelled to do it." It's not I've not been directed by my administrator to operate this way, and my union would probably say, "No, you don't have to do that." And then a smile comes over my face, and I think of the chaos that would ensue if I walked into a room and said, "I'm not doing this today. Find somebody else," and then turn around and leave. So all of this is very it's about my peace. It's about me going to work. Those are bigger things than doing somebody a favor. Because if I'm doing you a favor or I'm doing a group of people a favor, but it's costing me my peace, that might get in the way of me going to work. And that's a problem that's gonna interfere with my family and my well-being in general. So if I have to say no and upset a handful of people who at the end of the day, it's not gonna matter in 5 years from now, right? Like, it's not gonna matter. So I've been living like that daily, wondering, "Am I gonna do this today? Or am I gonna tell someone I'm not doing this?" Because, and I don't wanna get into it here, you know about it though, but there's been moments of, like, heightened anxiety for me, and I'm like, "Why am I doing this to myself?" Oh, because there's a group of us who have decided that we're gonna do each other favors, and you and I have talked about, it could easily hit the fan. I'm surprised it hasn't already, right? Because it's just those things. It's a way of operating that, um it's a way of operating that if our little agreement, when I mean little, it's a group of coworkers, if our agreement, it's smoothly running along and it's not affecting people with authority and power, then it's okay. But if it were to interfere with people who have authority and power because they need something done, but we can't oblige them because of our little agreement, then it's gonna cause problems. It There's only problems when it interferes with people above you who can tell you what to do and how to do it. So if somebody were to say to me, "I need you to be here at this time on this day," and I'm like, "No, I can't." "Why not?" "Well, because we made this little agreement over here that we're doing this on this day." "Oh, but I need you over here." "Oh, well, then let's make you aware of this little agreement that's on the side that you're okay with if it doesn't interfere with you, but now it's interfering with you, so now it's a problem. But but you kinda like it being over here doing this because it helps you, but now this is getting in your way, and we need to change that." That's actually happened this year where there was a situation where things are going wrong smoothly and nobody seems to care or pay attention to the dysfunction of the situation. And I use dysfunction with a small d. It's not a huge dysfunction, but it's dysfunctional until then somebody with authority says, "We need to do this now." It's like, "Whoa, whoa. Do you understand that your request is gonna cause chaos within this dysfunction that you are okay with, but now that you need something changed, it's upsetting the apple cart, and it's causing more dysfunction within dysfunction." And they're like, "Just get it done." And then it's like, for me, "Oh, is that how we're gonna be? Because if we're gonna be like that, I just wanna know the rules. For what are my rules for this?" And then once the rules are laid out, I live by them. And you can ask my family, they'll tell you that once the rules are set, I struggle to deviate from them. If I agree to them, they're like that. That's how Roland operates. He needs a parameter, and once you give him the parameter, he will drive you nuts because he'll live in there because somebody dictated that, and now everybody's going to pay for it. It's like that thing I told you about. Jocko Willink said, "The way to be able to get your way is to play by the rules to the nth degree. It'll drive everybody nuts, but you're driving them nuts because you're literally following the rules that were given to you to follow, but you do it so well and you live within them so well that there's no room to negotiate outside of them. But people like you to negotiate outside of them when it works for them, but not when it works for you. So you live within the rules and you do it so well that people are like, this guy's competent. So let's give him a little bit of rope. And then once you have the rope, then they're like, we don't need to hear about everything inside the box. Just do it. Make things happen. We trust you because we know that you're going to operate. You'll get shit done. We don't have to worry about you because you're constantly on us about the things inside the box." So I go into work and I think, am I going to get dirty within the box? Am I going to start to tell everybody, "No, I can't do that. It doesn't fit within these rules that you gave me to follow"? I could do that, and it would raise a lot of problems. It would cause a lot of problems, and I have a feeling what would happen. I have a feeling is that the people above me would kind of push it off to the leaders between them and me, and then they would shoulder the middle leaders would shoulder the burden. So I would be burdening the people around me with greater responsibility because nobody wants to upset the apple cart. So I'm like, "I'm out. You guys can do this on your own." And they'd be like, "Oh my God, that sucks. We're going to have to take more on because we're not going to take that to the top and upset the top. I know everything I'm saying, people who are listening are like, what is he talking about? Just know that it's people give you a parameter to operate within. And I don't think they care if you go outside of it, as long as it doesn't cause such a disruption that it brings attention to the people who are running the show. So the people who are running the show are good when everything underneath them is happening and there's no obvious disruption or chaos or problem. If they find out that people are operating outside the rules, then they're like, whoa, you can't do that. You
But
can't do that.
But here's a couple things. But so when the system still benefits, though, the system still benefits from people breaking the rules. See, this is what sometimes people don't think about. If the system is sort of getting what it needs in order to operate at a optimal level, sure, you'll have individuals that are admonished if they're caught doing things in the gray zone. And people could be potentially admonished if they're not respecting what the gray zone rules are. You can get this weird space like, are you actually saying you're not going to do your job anymore? It's like, no, it actually isn't my job. It was never my job, but everyone here in this room has just started to do this job. And no one's actually parsed out what the rules are. There's a whole layer of assumptions, and the assumptions were set in motion because of either scarcity, there was a reactive moment, there was a vacant moment, and someone flinched. That's how this came to be. Someone flinched. And then the flinching became part of the process, but it was never set up in a formal way. It becomes a virus. It's just passed along like, this is what we do. This is what we do. This is how we do. And it's always fascinating to get to a point where someone who I'll go back to the when I had my year in guidance, and I get that phone call. It was 2 weeks before the school year started, and the head of the department calls me up at home. Are you coming in? I'm like, why? School doesn't start for another 2 weeks. No. The guidance department is in here early because we're setting up all this stuff. I'm like, I've got plans for the next 2 weeks. They're like, oh, and this is how these viral moments happen. No one wants to say it out loud. The actual succession and delivery system for these rules is people noticing culture or noticing nuance or noticing context, because no one wants to say it out loud. No one wants to put it down on paper. Well, you can't, right? So you kind of do it as an after effect, which is why I got that phone call. Oh, you're supposed to be in here. I'm like, first off, I got plans. I ain't coming in. And then they said, oh, well, that's the deal with guidance. We come in early and then we're given time off afterwards. I'm like, can't come in. I don't need that time off, but I can't come in. And that started a really interesting conversation. And after that year, they actually removed that option, lieu time for guidance counselors. Now, that wasn't because of me, but I'm sure it was an example case study that was brought to light. Because now all of a sudden I was the outlier. I was also the new person coming in. I was also the person that hadn't, quote unquote, drank the Kool-Aid yet. I knew the job that I had to do, but I wasn't going to give up my summer to come in and start giving away free labor. So I think this happens often when it comes to teams. And the thing that the teams don't clock, and it's not always possible to do it, is that the system benefits whether you make a mistake or you do the right thing. It's obligated to address you if you do the wrong thing, but it's not like they're going to reverse the decision often if it was still in service to the system. They're not going to give you back time or lieu or credit per se if it's still in service to the system, but they will still admonish you. You could still get a letter for doing the wrong thing, operating in the wrong way. And I think that's a really important distinction for teams to kind of recognize, is that it's so if that is true, and that's true for me entirely, that means that if you are a person in the room that realizes this team is not operating according to your collective agreement, it's not operating according to what seems like not legal, but let's say ethical boundaries of the work, I think it behooves you to be able to be the person that tips the apple cart. I think we need to start doing that more, because the idea like somehow you're upsetting your colleague is the distraction that the system wants you to have. That's how it keeps you in line. Your fear of actually upsetting your colleague, when in fact the system and the individuals that enforce the system are quite happy to have you upset with your colleague if they're still getting their needs satisfied. Now, the system, I'll say in this case, can be administration. It's not really department heads. Department heads are the ultimate, to say it many times. Your strongest, most powerful, most creative self exists while you remain a teacher. And that's for a lot of reasons. Once you become a department head, then you become squeezed. Once you become an administrator, you become squeezed. Once you go up to superintendent, you become squeezed. These are far more compressed states than you have as a teacher. As a teacher, we have the distinction and the distinctive option to be able to say no. And we have a system of supports that will reinforce that. We have a system of communications and discussions that will allow us to sort of work that out. So even by saying no, it's not like it's going to be a short term, like you're never going to have to do it again. But when you're the teacher, as a leader, you have options to this integrative kind of problem solving that does look at the holistic challenge of opposing tensions. I have an administrator that's asking me to do this. I have a department head that's asking me to do this. I sort of think this is the professional. We have a table to have that discussion. It's this idea of integrative thinking that takes a little bit longer that I kind of dig. And I know the rule is, and my union has said this, say yes, as long as it's not breaking a rule, get the job done, and then we'll work it out afterwards. That has been said quite clearly, right? Even as far as like, your work refusals and these other kind of like legal labor kind of WSIB labor kind of moments, unless you're actually in danger, you're going to be hurt or whatever. Don't say no to your job before you actually know you can say no to your job, kind of a thing. But yeah, it's the integrative part that I don't think we give enough credit to, where we can actually say, okay, Principal Joe, you're telling me to do it like this. Bring your best research and readiness to the table. Department head Mika, okay, you're saying we're going to do it this way. You bring your research and stuff. Hello, teacher, that now I've got two different people kind of asking me to do it a different way. Here's where I know, according to my collective agreement, this ain't right. Education Act, this doesn't seem right. And I get we've been going along and doing this a certain way for so long, but cart, dook, apples are now on the floor. Let's talk it out. It's funny, a lot of this is not, I still go back to this brain, this mindset that I'm kind of walking through right now is actually a lot more associated with my work as a chef and in hospitality than it is with education. There's still a lot of head shaker things that I think about in education. I'm like, yeah, there needs to be a rule for this. There actually needs to be a very clear rule for this. So one of the primary reasons that I do not want to become admin is for that squeeze. I've seen it. I know it. Superintendent walks in your office and you're the administrator, you gotta respond. You have to. That's just the energy of the superintendent showing up at your school, and you're the administrator. Superintendent and administrator walked into my classroom and stood at the back the other day. I didn't even talk to them. Didn't even know why they were there. They just walked in while I was in mid-lesson. I don't have to respond to them. I can keep teaching. I like that freedom. I've come to sort of understand that freedom is very closely bound to my own sense of personal wellness.
So personal wellness is what may cause me to step away from an agreement that is not binding. And it's day to day. And the couple of people that know just are watching. They're like, what's going to happen today? And it's confusing for some people because I'm pretty good at saying, "Yeah, leave that with me. I'll take care of it and I'll get back to you." "Oh, you need me to do that? It's done. It's done." And you and I have talked about this. If it can be done in the next 5 minutes, then I'm doing it. I've now become it's muscle memory. I was at my computer yesterday, 1:34 PM. School ends at 2. I got an email from a teacher who was emailing a student and their parents, me, the guidance counselor, and admin. Jimmy has not done any of these assignments. I'm handing in midterm marks next week. If Jimmy doesn't do them, it's gonna significantly impact his mark in a negative way. FYI. I see the email pops up in front of me, 1:34 PM. I'm thinking 1:35, I'm on the phone calling the classroom where the kid's supposed to be. The kid comes into my office. I'm like, "Jimmy, man, what's up? I just read this email. You're missing this, this, and this." Literally, I was like, "I can take care of this in the next 5 to 10 minutes where I can have an answer. Hopefully, I'll know why Jimmy didn't do any of that, if he decides to share. More importantly, I will know, is Jimmy planning on getting it done, and is there something I need to do to help support Jimmy get it done?" I would say before 1:45 PM, I was emailing the teacher, the guidance counselor, and the administrator back saying, "I just met with Jimmy. This is what he says he's gonna do. That he says this is what he's gonna do." And, I told him, "You see me on Monday and you wanna be signed into room 208 to work with me to do it? It's all good." At that time, he's like, "No, I don't wanna go to room 208. Let me see what I can get done on the weekend, then I'll check in with you on Monday." Done. So that's off my list. That's how I operate generally. You give it to me, I deal with it, and I give it right back. You might not like the answer, or you might not like what the process is gonna be, but I did it. That's how I operate. So now that I'm telling people, I don't know if I'm gonna be in this room at this time today, because if I'm in my office space and I'm feeling so anxious about what I'm about to do next that it's gonna make me sick, I'm not doing it. And they're like, "What?" Like, they don't know where it's coming from, and I'm like, I operate a certain way and it gets me through my day, and nobody has a problem with it because it benefits you. But when I tell you I'm not doing this because it's gonna cause me harm, all of a sudden it's an issue. "Well, but we made an agreement." "I don't care. You're not my principal. You didn't direct me. You don't get to direct me. You you said, 'Hey, can we do this?' And we all agreed. And now I'm telling you I'm not doing this today. So figure it out." Now, anyway, so that's where I'm at with that. And, and it's weird because it has me reflecting on what is my problem? Why am I feeling anxious about this? What is it that's causing me distress with the situation? And I think it's because it's so outside of the box of rules that it's like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, whoa," like, what if I need something outside the rules and you tell me no? Well, then I have to live with it. You're gonna have to live with it too if I decide today I'm not playing outside the box of rules. And I appreciate you for sharing with me your perspective. You're like, "Whoa, Roland, what does your collective agreement say?" And I'm like, "The collective agreement may not have wording around that, but I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm I'm I made the decision to give people my time that doesn't belong to the school. Like, the time I'm giving is my lunch or my prep. It's not class time." And so, somebody would say, "Well, you're choosing not to have your lunchtime in the staff room today." That's what they would say to me. I'm like, "That great. That means I can choose to have my lunchtime in the staff room today." I can choose to have my prep time today. And and so the funny thing of this is that, as you know, I I don't have a lunch time and a prep time. I only do when it's convenient to the people above me, right? Because I go to caseload meetings and I talk with teachers and I call parents and I do my e-learn at whatever times I want and can, right? Like when someone says to me, "Hey, can we meet at this time for caseload?" I don't say, "Oh, I can't. That's my lunchtime." Or, "I'm not gonna do that today. That's my prep time, and I need to do this instead." I don't do that because I understand in my role, and I believe in my role, I need to be flexible, and so I operate flexibly. So for me, kinda like what I observed from my guidance department, they have a prep time and a lunchtime, but whenever I go into guidance, it's rolling. They're doing whatever they're doing at that time, and I'll see them eating at the weirdest time. Like, I'll walk in the middle of 5th period with half an hour left in the day, and I'll see the guidance counselor sitting at the table in the middle of guidance just, like, eating their food. I'm like, "Oh, it's your lunch?" "No, no, I just this is my minute. There's nobody here. I don't have any meetings, so I'm eating." And I'm like, I'm gonna talk to you, and I just need you to listen. Don't talk back. Keep eating your lunch, but I unless you tell me to take a hike, I'm gonna talk, and I need you to listen. I don't need you to do anything." They're like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem." "Okay, cool." And then I talk. Um, but that's okay. Now, if I worked with another IEP monitor who said, "No, I'm not meeting with you right now. It's my lunchtime," I would respect that. I'd say, "No problem. Um, email me later or whatever. Let's figure out a time." And if that time but then I know, then I know that if you say to me, "Let's meet at 2:30 today," I'm not meeting you at 2:30. I'm leaving at 2:15 today. "Well, no, there's no well. School ended at 2, and today I'm leaving at 2:15. Maybe you'll catch me another day where I'm leaving at 2:45. We could talk at 2:30." Right? Or, "No, no, let's meet before school." "No, I'm not that's not I don't get here till this time." You get what I'm saying? So then I know what the I try to reciprocate what I'm getting. I try, and I don't do it, like, in a rude way. I just do it well, if it's okay for you to not meet with me during your lunch, then it's okay for me to not meet with you at 2:30 because that's outside of the box time. Just like you're telling me your lunchtime's non-negotiable. You're not gonna talk about work or whatever during lunchtime. I respect that. But now I'm gonna expect that you're gonna respect my wishes, and if you don't, that's okay because you don't have to, but I'm still gonna roll how I want. And I think that's having said all that, that's the beauty for me of second half of life. That's the beauty of me for having done this job so long. I'm not here to impress anybody. I don't need you to do whatever for me. I'll just do what I do. Because at the end of the day, I know my rights and I know my collective agreement, but I'm in a role that I choose to be flexible in because I because that's kind of the way it seems to work. Like re-engagement. I did a lot of things in re-engagement where people were like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Because this job is built different and I've accepted the challenge to operate different." Right? There's still protections in place, and I learned that along the way, but I chose to do something different, and I could see some results from being different, and the results were student engagement changed and student attendance changed for the better. So I'm gonna do it. So, to people inside the box, they're like, "That we don't know how you did that. That was risky. We don't know why you did that." And I'm like, "Well, I chose to in consultation with people like my wife, people like you, people like my principal, and we'd work out how to operate in a way that was, like, make sure it's ethical, make sure it's safe, make sure I'm as protected and the student is as protected as we can be in that state." Like, I remember I remember having a conversation with a couple of the people in my board that deal with behavioral situations and safety, and I remember they came to our school to talk to us about safety, our safety when working with students who maybe were dysregulated or whatever, and then I started to explain, "Hey, sometimes I walk with kids to school. What should I in your opinion, how does this look? How should I be behaving?" And they were like, "Okay, great, great question. Maybe you keep this much distance at all time, da 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 da." So I'm like, "Great." So I built that into my operating system. So when I'm walking a kid to school, they're on the sidewalk where they're safe, and I'm on the street, not in the middle of the street, but I'm like right on the curb, and I'm kind of slightly behind them where I can observe what's happening. And you know, the kids are like, "Why? What are you doing?" I'm like, we're walking and talking. Don't worry about me. You're on the sidewalk and you're safe. Make sure you're watching where you're going. We just keep talking as we walk." And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I'm as safe as I can be. They're as safe as they can be. The route, the route's mapped out. I've already communicated with my principal and the school principal the route that we're taking, that we're on our way. Like all these things are happening in the background, right? The operating system's running, but there's all kinds of code running in the background. The kid doesn't need to know that. The kid just needs to know, "I'm there to support them. We're gonna get them to school." But I'm doing all these other things to make sure that in my flexibility, I'm working within a box that has been created for this. So, all that to say, lately, I've been very, uh, unstable in how I'm gonna approach a certain situation weekly. And the people who know that I'm unstable, they're just like, "We don't know what's gonna happen today." And I'm like, "That's cool." And none of this is a big deal. It's just I may call somebody and say, "I'm not going to that room today at
Mhm.
this time. Find somebody else or do it yourself." That's all I'm saying. And if it gets there, it's because something's happened to cause me to be like, "I'm not playing this dealing tradesies game today. Sorry."
I want to it feels like there's an untapped kind of space of self-advocacy about the power of um and other people have done stuff on this before. This power of saying no, but saying no in a way that isn't destructive. And I tend to fall on the side of a chaotic no. I don't I haven't in the past given a lot of time to um, how people receive that information from me. I just kind of move on, move away, keep going when I've said no, or I oppose, or I don't do the thing that I'm asked to do. I haven't really stuck around to sort of examine the relationship. And I think there's a bit of a blind spot there for me. I want to get better at saying no and still sticking around for the now what, which is something that I do often with my students when they have some sort of they're reactive in some way that they've kind of gotten used to the world responding to their triggered moment or escalation in a kind of like a punitive fashion or a dismissive or an isolationist fashion, is in like, okay, fine, you're gonna get his attention, get out of here, like get away from me kind of a response. I'm starting to have a real deep craving to develop a capacity to say no to someone and then still stick around afterwards and say, okay, no, I'm not going to do it, but let's talk about this, about how it can get done within a better frame, or it could be done in a different way. Um, because I do feel like the place that where I work, there is a heightened sense of familiarity between people that join teams, and sometimes what that I find that does is kind of amplify the assumption that people will just do things without examining any purpose behind it, without having a discussion around, is this best practice, without sort of thinking through implications of, okay, we have been doing this stuff in a certain way before. Has anyone been harmed or bothered by it? Like doing a little bit of postmortem stuff. There was an email that came up a couple weeks ago where I know by looking at it, just by the content of it, that this is an ongoing discussion that has to do with behavioral things that admin need to focus on. It's not me. It's not actually me. I was CC'd as the cert. Okay. And some of that stuff I keep, some of it I just delete. I'm like, okay, thanks for letting me know. In much the same way, I know that there are staff that will CC admin on things that the staff need to be taken care of, and they should never be CCing the admin on it. Like, neither you nor me admin need a separate folder of DM mentions. Like, whoever goes back to those things, no one does. So thank you. Okay, you CC'd me on that, but I'm not even a part of this process. And the reason you're doing is you're sort of trying to sort of like use my clout to make something happen. If it wasn't about clout, then BCC me. It just means I get my copy. But to put me included on there is that you want the receiver to know that you've sent it to somebody else, right? In the same way when parents, they'll email a teacher and then they'll put the principal on the CC line. Why? Just deal directly with the people in the relationship. So the administrator walked into my office and said, okay, did you see the email this morning from such and such a person? I'm like, yep. They're like, do you think you could reach out to them? And I was like, well, you know what? No, I don't think I will. My read on this is that it's something that you should be doing. And they just stood there for a second. And what was really nice about it, and I'll credit them, they admitted the humanity, as they sort of admitted the error through their own humanity. The reason that they were asking me to do it, which I didn't care. I wasn't going to ask for the reason. I just wasn't going to do it. I didn't care. I didn't need evidence as to why. I knew I didn't need to know why they asked me to do it. I had to know the reason why I wasn't going to do it. That was more important to me in that moment. So they said, well, I'm going to be buried in meetings. I'm not going to be able to respond back to them. In my mind, I'm thinking the 5 minutes that you used walking from your office to ask me to do it, there's the pocket. That's where my brain was sort of accumulated, but I didn't say that. I said, I understand. Matt, you're busy. I said, but this is directed at you. And they said, well, I just want to make sure that they know that I got the email. And again, my brain, they go on your phone right now and send a quick email. Got your message. I will get back to you this afternoon. Right? So it was good. It was good that I got that part, that they were able to sort of, I guess, I figured that was better. Though I appreciated it for them more than it was useful to me. I actually thought, wow, this is kind of a cool, I said, if you allow it to be, this is kind of a cool moment of growth for you. This is so twisted to sort of frame it this way, but I thought that's good that you were able to sort of articulate that out loud. I think that's very good that you were able to articulate that out loud, and to be able to admit the reason that you are asking someone else to do your work was because you were busy. And then a second layer to that, I thought to myself, now you need to go say that to your own boss. Now you need to say that in your own systems that are overburdening you with meetings and stuff like that, that make it impossible for you to do some of this human work. Because I'm still not going to call the parent. But I hope for you, you can notice, you can notice the opportunity here to adjust your own practice. Kind of twisted, but that's what I took away from that. And I think that's one of the really cool power reflection, power, empowerment moments when you're in these kind of like situations. If you do integrative thinking well, holistic thinking well about an issue, this type of new light is really useful. It's really useful. The fact that I wouldn't take on their work because they're too busy, well, the problem is obvious. It's not the fact that you can't answer the emails, because your work is organized in such a way that you feel you can't satisfactorily complete it. Stick with that. Push back into that. Lean into that. And again, the great thing is as the teacher, I had the freedom of no.
I had the freedom of no. But I want to get better at that. I want to get better at being able to, because I think there's a self-discernment element of it. Like saying no just because I'm in a bad mood is not what I'm talking about. Saying no because I want to hurt someone is not what I'm talking about. Saying no because I want to actually disrupt or intent or cause chaos in someone's world, it's not what. Those things can happen as a result. Those things can still happen as a result of me making a good choice. And I'm okay with that. I have to find a way to be okay with that. It's the, how do I stack up my thinking so that as I'm approaching a decision, yes and no have equal weight until I can find the reason to say yes or say no. Like it's just having enough time, making the time to sort of make a clear discernment. And being comfortable with the fact that my process of analysis is good, unless I can introduce better information or different information. I have confidence in my system. I was asked this past week, so there was another student that I had another no, and this one I just did as a no, and I redirected, this should be completed by so-and-so. I had a student that's on my caseload. They've recently been recommended to a program, and there's an application that goes with that program. Now, the application for that program is connected to a course. So the reason that they're being referred to this program is because there's a course that they want access to. There's behaviors that are associated as well, but this is a closed program that the application, the form is the pathway into it. It's not preemptive as in it wouldn't, like there's not a qualifying kind of element to it where the kid was kind of pre-approved for it. The bureaucracy meant that this form had to be completed. The guidance had sent it to me and said, can you fill this one out? We figured it would be good for you to fill it out because you're their cert. So I read over the form. I responded back and said, no, I will not. I'm not going to fill this out. It would be better if the classroom teacher. So the course that they were in, they're moving to a different version of that course. That particular course, and because of the kids' behaviors, only offered within a program. So to get into that program, the documentation had to be done. But that's not I did not recommend this kid to this path. The original course that they were being challenged with was not my course. Me being their cert, this isn't my purview to sort of do applications to transition them between programming inside. That's not my paperwork. That paperwork should have been done either by assumption that the guidance person that sort of recommended it, or the teacher that made the referral. So I said no to that. I didn't hear back, so I don't know what the landing was. But part of that was just a thank you very much. And then Bruce Lee had kind of redirected its energy to somebody else. No, thank you. So I want to get better at that. Just the fact that I can do it once or twice, I will admit, does not mean that I'm good at it. But that discernment, no more automatic yeses or nos.
I like what you said about the reasons why you do and don't use the word no. It's, it's not to be difficult. It's not to be mean. It's purposeful. There's, it's just knowing what's right and what's not right at that time. Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm reflecting on how things operated when I was in elementary, right? And lots of things fall on the classroom teacher in elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I didn't agree with. Some of the things I just say, that's not happening. It's not my place to do that or to deliver that information. I became way better at that because it'd be like, okay, this happened on the yard. You're going to tell the parents this and this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. What? Why not? I didn't witness it. I'm not dealing with that. You're going to deliver that message to the parent. Now, if the parent needs to work through it, I'm happy to do that because, they may be concerned it's going to impact how they do school during the day and they're with me during the day, but I'm not delivering that information. Well, you're their classroom teacher. I know that. I'm also building relationships with a very difficult situation, and I don't need this kind of nonsense to upset that. And there have been times where people are like, "No, you're going to." And I'm like, "Then let me tell you what I'm gonna say because it's gonna end up in your lap again." I'm gonna tell them that I was told to tell them. And you take that however you wanna take that. I'm trying to keep relationships alive. I don't need to be the dartboard. I need to be the classroom teacher who runs a particular way and operates a particular way. They need to continue to know that I'm not the be all and end all of everything. So I will say, I'm calling you today because of a situation. It didn't happen in class and I didn't observe it. The information was brought to me and I was asked to communicate it to you. And if you don't like that, that's your problem. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm being factual, right? Because how often do they tell us, no, don't be gray. Be factual, right? Stick with the facts. I am. But this time it's working against you. So you don't want me to do that. You want me to kind of like be the buffer. No, I'm not interested in being the buffer. This is already a difficult situation with a difficult family relationship that I have, that I'm tiptoeing around the bushes trying to make it good. Keep it good, make it good. If it goes south, then I deal with the south because it's part of what's happening in this room. But if something's happening on the yard every day, all the time at a certain time, and you want me to deliver that, and you're telling me I have to, I'm not interested in fighting with you. I'll deliver it, but it's going to be, I'm sorry, this happened again. We'll talk, we'll figure out how we're going to work through this. I was asked to share this information with you. That's just like, that is what it is. That is what it is. We're supposed to be factual for everything else. No, if you don't want me to be factual because it's gonna wreck your day, that's your problem. And people have to live with their problems. I got problems, I gotta live with them, right? There are things I don't wanna do that are part of my job that I do because I'm like, well, unfortunately, it's part of my job, you know? And I'm getting better. I'm getting better because people are pushing. And I say that like I don't know what their intention is. Yesterday, I got a phone call about a student that's not on my caseload, but the student has spoken highly of me, the teacher says. Teacher says, "This kid believes he has a great relationship with you, so this is what's happening, this is what I need." I said, "I think that's fantastic that you know what's happening and you know what needs." I'm not their monitor. So, if, let's talk to their monitor. And if they think it'd be a good idea for me to be part of this, then we can talk about that more later. But until then, this is a pretty big situation. And you're talking to someone I don't deal with this kid. And I don't say that in a rude way. I say I don't truly know their learning profile. They're not part of my alpha. And there's a reason why we have an alpha. It's because you can't have everybody doing everything all the time with no rules or regulations. So it's been established. Okay, but you work with him during this time. Yes, I do, because he's in here at that time. Well, can you talk to him about this? No, I'm not talking to him about that. You need to talk to him about that. You need to talk to his parents about that. And then if somehow, some way it interferes with what's happening with me in this room, then I'll talk to him about it. But until then, I'm not I'm not solving this problem for you. Now, this is also a teacher that is constantly um shifting things out of their realm into other people's realms for whatever reason. I'm like, "Dude, this isn't even a kid on my alpha."
Mhm.
But he mentioned your name. I'm happy to hear that. That means that whatever's happening in this room works. The kid listens, the kid complies, the kid works, right? The kid communicates with me. We have a friendly relationship. That's all good stuff. So why am I going to ruin that now with something that sounds disciplinary that you don't want to deal with, and you're the classroom teacher. It was interesting because I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And this is what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing that. You can talk to their monitor. You can talk to their guidance counselor. You can talk to their VP, because it sounds like all those people need to be involved. I don't.
Mm.
I'm not part of that team. But whatever happens in 208 during period 2 with him, I'm cool with that because I'm the monitor in the room and I'm here to support the student. I think the teacher was like, well, I'm asking you to do me a favor. And I'm saying, no, I'm not doing you a favor.
It's so critical. See, this is where we get outside the assumption. The problem with assumption is for someone to actually say those words, to ask for the favor, to ask for the support, because there's an admission of overwhelm in that, right? There's admission of, and it's not a problem to be humble. It's not a problem to sort of say. The weaponization of humility can become a problem, where you sort of are too effusive and too like, my work is just so busy and it just goes so far. It becomes weaponized where you actually are trying to influence. So when you use humility to influence, humility in itself is influentially neutral. You're humble because it's just kind of a way that you express to the world, but you express to it from a driver, from the point of view of that you just need to be honest and express, not that you're using it to convince someone to do something for you. So
Now,
when humility becomes manipulation.
The teacher did say to me, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And
Perfect.
I did. I told
But it doesn't enforce a yes.
Right.
That's the tripping point that I was circling up to. I appreciate when people have the bravery, because I do attach it, to be humble with me, to say that they're in the realm of overwhelm or misunderstanding or confusion, and they don't know what to do next. But I will pause at the line of commitment to actually do anything just because they're operating that way. Do I appreciate knowing that? Absolutely. And I do like being able to understand people at a more deeper level. But that there's no enforcement, or I'm not compelled to sort of follow that through with action on my end. It's just an honest moment. And it's separate from anybody actually doing anything next.
It was, so I'm saying that because it wasn't just one of these phone calls where it's like, no. It was, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, this is what I would suggest if that's what you're asking. And he's like, yeah, I'm asking, what do I do? This is what I would do. And then it's about, can you talk to him? No, not about this, not at this time. No. So, and you know what? That it's also me learning that people are going to say no to me too. Because I think there was a time in my career where I didn't want to hear somebody say no to me. Now I'm like,
That's
no,
that's how the universe operates, whether we
I'm
want to
listening
admit
to
it.
the universe,
Yeah.
right?
You're listening to the universe. And the fact of it is that if you choose to be in that space, I've said, don't argue with the universe. When you find, if you get the gift of recognizing that you are in the middle of a conversation that has universal implications, really, really pay attention to what's going on there, because you're being given a peek into the operating system of how human nature actually works. If you can actually just kind of slow it down and notice what's happening between you and the person you're communicating with, there's quite a bit of freedom there. And the freedom is in as much as letting the other person operate in the way that they're operating, and then in the same way saying to yourself, I will be treated like this as well. Right? And again, neither party has to be compelled to act in favor of each other if they're just presenting themselves to the universe in this moment. This is where I'm at. Okay, I get it. And I'm still not going to help you. Right? I think that I think there's, as far as I've noticed, that there's far more people that have sort of enacted this kind of like Samaritan like kind of way of operating in education. And I think from my observations that there's more right now from what I've observed, it's created a lot of problems because it's allowed for some people just not to take care of their shit. And not only that, there are individuals who are leaning on the Samaritan nature of individuals to just kind of do things. They populate their teams with them. They only talk to them. They sort of like go to them knowing that they're going to get something in return. And it's not even about that the person in particular individual will do a good job. They're just not going to play into the chaos of the universe. So,
and it's unfortunate that some people are known to not take care of their stuff.
Mhm.
There's a reputation for it, whether it's true or not. That right? You need to. I believe it's important to work with the experience the situation with people to see how they respond to situations. And I'd like to say this came up the other day where I was talking to a colleague and they were asking about a particular student. And I laughed and they said, "What's funny?" And I said, "What's funny is if you talk to this person, if you talk to Jimmy, Jimmy will tell you that I've done nothing to help the situation." And they looked at me horrified. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, because from Jimmy's perspective, I've taken a step back because Jimmy has a great relationship with this student and they continuously go to Jimmy for support. When I reach out to the student, they ignore me. They won't talk to me and they won't come and see me. And when I go to see them, they rebuff me." So from Jimmy's perspective, Jimmy may say, "Chidiak's useless. He does nothing." And they're still like, and I'm like, it's about perspective and it's about situation. So when somebody says to me, "Tell me about this student," I'll say, "Well, I can only tell you the little bit I know because for a million different reasons, this student doesn't engage with me. If my superior instructs me to connect with the student, then I make every effort to do it. But I'm telling you, it's been about a year now, and this student they don't acknowledge me for whatever reason. But when I'm asked, I continue to try and engage." Okay. But they constantly go to Jimmy, and I don't mind. But Jimmy could say no to them. Jimmy could say, "No, go talk to Chidiak. He's your support person." But Jimmy doesn't do that. Jimmy just does whatever Jimmy does with the kid. So it was just it was very interesting, and I laughed out loud, and they were horrified. I'm like, "Well, what's there to be horrified about?" I'm not For me, like, I'm cool. I'm not purposely avoiding the student. I'm not telling people, "No, I will not support this student." Like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm totally open to helping them in any way that they need it, but they're part of that, equation, and if they don't want to be, well, I can't force them to be, nor do I want to. I don't wanna force anybody to do anything. So, it was just funny because, in one breath, I can tell you, "I'm on it, I'm on it, I'm on it," but Jimmy will tell you Chidiak is not involved with this kid at all. I don't think Chidiak has done anything all year with this kid. They may say that. I have evidence to prove different, but I could see why Jimmy would say that because the kid wants nothing to do with me, and so they're constantly going to Jimmy, and Jimmy's constantly helping them out in any way that Jimmy can. And I'm appreciative that there's somebody in the building who the kid can seek out for support and that the person takes it on, even though technically they don't have to, but they do. But then here's the thing. If Jimmy ever came to me and said, "Why don't you do anything?" I'd say, "Why are you not sending this to administration? Why are
Mhm.
you not saying to the student, I'm sorry, this is not my place. Let's go talk to Chidiac. I don't want to talk to Chidiac. I don't talk to Chidiac. Okay. Just so you know, I'm going to take this to administration because I'm not your support person. Chidiac is. So there's obviously something going on. And Chidiac, being Chidiac, I'm telling you, I would invite that conversation because then administration has to actually do something. Because right now they're not doing anything. And what I mean, and I don't mean that in a rude way, I just mean it's not at their attention. So they're doing their other stuff while Jimmy takes care of this kid. Well, if administration knows that Jimmy's taking on more than he should, they'd probably tell Jimmy, well, that you're choosing that, right? So Jimmy's working outside the boundary, and admin would be, at the end, admin wouldn't be like, well, thank you so much. They'd be like, well, why are you doing that? I mean, we should be working through this properly, right? So your good deed is now going to work against you. I'm like, take it to admin. Isn't that part of their role at this point? Nobody has a problem telling me what to do. Why aren't we taking to the person who needs to work on this next? I'm not scared of that. There's nothing scary for me about that. That's just the way it rolls. So there's all these things going on, right? There's all these things. But if Jimmy were to say to me, you don't help, I'm like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I can tell you I've tried things. They're just not working. So if you have any insight for me that'll help me connect with this kid, I'm all ears. But you choose to do what you want, dude. And if you want to blame me, that's your vibe, go nuts. But you're choosing to do these things. And just like when a kid comes to me and I'm not their person, I always say to them, I'm going to do what I can in this moment to support you. And I'm going to let your support person know because I'm not your person. So I'm not telling you take a hike, don't ever talk to me again. I'm saying I'm not mowing somebody else's lawn. I'm not going to jump in and pretend to be a savior. I'm going to support you at this moment because you're here with me now. But I'm also going to let people know that this happened. And so we can build a plan on how we support you best moving forward. And if that means that during period 2, when your IEP monitor has their prep time or their lunch or they're in classroom teaching, I'll know what my role is during this time because I'm the one in the room, but I'm not your main support person. I got no problem with that. Or you won't put your phone away, I'm going to have to let admin know because I've asked you politely. I'm not going to fight with you, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it says right here, I've got that on the board too, the little newsletter thing that came right from my principal. It says right here that if you don't do these things, I'm supposed to do these things. So now I'm going to do it. Like, does it suck sometimes? Yeah. Is it always straightforward? No. But it's right here, black and white. I just think like, I don't want to be shouldering things that aren't mine. I don't want to. Some people like to do that. I don't like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to do that. I like to know what my job is and I like to do my job and I like to help. But that doesn't mean taking things over. It doesn't mean mowing somebody else's lawn and taking, like, people have done that to me. They just take things over that are mine. And I'm like, okay, that's your choice. Call me when you need me because it's going to hit the fan. Then you're going to drop it all on me. But I never told you to pick it up. You just can't help yourself for whatever reason.
When you say, I'm sorry you feel it that way, do you mean it?
Yeah.
Why? What is it? What is tell me what's going on there with that statement? That's one that I've removed it from my, that's become a fossil. That's fossil fuel for me now. So tell me about what's going on in there that's, and I'm not looking for you to convince me that it's, but I've started to sort of understand that particular phrase generally has become fossil fuel. It is not actually an authentic statement anymore. And by authentic statement, my response is that
for you to feel sorry that someone does or doesn't feel a certain way, there has to be a highly empathetic physical reaction in you to someone just not getting it. Like that's the fuel behind saying something like that. Like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, you are feeling an incredible amount of pain or discomfort at the fact that they are not moving forward. What I've noticed with that, they're not that they're stuck. Sorry, not that they're moving forward, but that they're stuck. What I've found with that phrase is that it's become a phrase of manipulation, that it's said because the person saying it on some level believes in their own superiority in that moment. So it's no longer an empathetic response. It's actually a bit of an insult. There's an element of insult to it, that the person that is stuck is in the wrong. They're not intelligent, or their EQ isn't high enough to move, and that you still know better. So I'm curious, and I think that's part of why I've removed it from my phrasing, because that's how I've used it often in the past. I don't actually have the emotional response that would create the infrastructure to an appropriate usage of that word. Like, I'm using a tool in a rather robotic and manipulative way. So how does it work for you?
So a couple of things, and I don't know, maybe I feel like I've told you this before, but I don't know if I have. The worst thing that could happen to me is have an honest and authentic conversation with someone I don't like. Because unfortunately, when they tell me things about themselves that bring them pain, or their whatever suffering they perceive that they're experiencing at the current time, I unfortunately see that as an honor that I'm part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to say that because those are the worst times for me. Those are the worst times when I'm talking to somebody I don't particularly like or not interested in communicating with, and they share vulnerability. And I feel like they've honored me by sharing that burden with me. And therefore, at that moment in time, I should be authentic with them and truly care and listen. So when someone tells me that when I say to somebody, I'm sorry you feel that way, I'm trying to think of a time when I didn't mean it, but I usually do mean it because I see that they're struggling with something. There is some kind of suffering for them that is not good for them. And I know for me, I know when I feel like that, nobody gives a shit. I don't like that. And most of the time, nobody gives a shit. And I try not to share these things with others, but I honestly feel like, oh man, I know what it's like to feel suffering, and it sucks. And I'm sorry that they're experiencing that. Now, will it change my behavior? It might not. I might still say, no, I'm not helping you with that. I'm not doing that for you. I am sorry you feel that way, but it's not going to sway me into action. But I can feel not good about how you're feeling. So I actually do mean it. I mean, I don't often, I like maybe when you and I are having a conversation, I'll talk about that. But at work, dude, you should see me at work. I'm just doing. I'm not stopping and having chats with every second person. I'm not in the staff room engaging in conversation with people I don't know or people I want to get. I'm just not. I'm doing, or I'm working. I'm doing, I'm away, I'm here, I'm there. You get what I mean? Like, I'm not that person who's constantly engaged in conversations with people and saying, I'm really sorry you feel that way. So for me, when I say it to somebody, I mean it. If it's a parent on the phone or a kid in front of me or a staff member, I mean it because I know what it's like to feel like shit. And I think nobody really cares. So in that moment, for that person, I do care, but it may not be enough to have me move into action and to do what it is they would like me to do. And it happens with students all the time, right? Kids kids are walking into the room. They're like, can you call my teacher and ask if I can stay? No. Why? Because you're supposed to go to class first. So whatever now, then, but that opens the door for a conversation. Then after I hear them, I may say to them, I'll do it today, but I'm not doing it again. So here's your freebie based on the context of the situation. And I could call and the teacher could say, no, they're not staying. You get what I mean? So it's like, I'll be like, no, or tell me more. And the answer will still be no, or it'll be, I'll do you a solid today, but we're not doing this again. This isn't going to be the Roland show, calling your teacher, begging them for you to stay. No. Right. And they're like, you don't care. Oh, I care. This is part of me caring. And then whatever you want to say about me, you can say, then you can go away. I've been told recently that kids become bothered with me because they try to rage bait me and it doesn't work. And I just laugh. I'm like, go away.
It's the same for me. That's my whole now what philosophy.
So does that help you understand a little bit about my thing?
It does. Absolutely. And I mean, part of it is that I know for me, a big part of it for me is that I'm generally not sorry when people feel a certain way. I just let them feel that way. I feel no obligation to sort of accredit their emotional state with my approval. I let them just feel that way, and then I'll jump to the now what. I have in the past said that, I'm sorry you feel that way. And then afterwards, I'm like, why the hell did I say that? I'm actually not sorry. It was just words that I said that seemed to fit the moment. And I get it, we do that, but I'm trying to reduce that kind of fossil fuel. So
I get that too.
Yeah. Well, so just for Gary's edification and the AI, so full of shit sayings, sentences, idioms, and lies. I think that's what it was. Fossil fuel.
Yeah.
The stuff that we just kind of say because,
Well, because we're filling gaps in time.
Filler. Yeah.
It's filler.
Yeah. Okay. We've had a lot of fun with stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I know. I can hear action at your house. The world is happening around you.
Because I'm in a different spot. This time I had to plug in the laptop. One of my kids is up and doing dishes. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So. Maddie, do you want to say hi on the podcast? Hello. There you go.
Hi, Maddie.
Hello. Yeah. Chid says hi. So, hi, Chid. There you go. You got that back.
I haven't seen your kids in a long time, eh? It's been a while.
Oh, yeah?
I'm sure they both... Well, the last time I saw Jake, oh my God. Jake was like Jake was like adult Jake. And my wife was like, I didn't know he was so tall. I'm like, he wasn't the last time.
He wasn't. Yeah, it's true. I would say in the last 2 years, yeah, he's now officially the tallest in the family. Yeah, he's got to be over 6 feet now. So,
and Maddie's a senior in high school. Like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Only for a little bit longer, right? Then becomes the what's it? The frosh at uni.
The rookie. Yeah, the uni rookie. Oh, dude, thanks for the chat today. I appreciate it. I owe you money for this therapy session.
Yeah, we'll just keep putting it. We'll put it back into the marketing.
I'm cutting checks to you. I'm cutting checks to Gary. I hit him pretty hard start of the week. Yeah. He gave me some time on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly.
Gary says hi to Maddie as well. Nice.
Yeah, no, the spelling's exactly correct. That's exactly how it is. That's exactly how we roll with it. So you're on point, Gary. You're on point.
Any last words before we go, Chris?
No, man. It's sunny here. We have an appointment that we got to make it to with the fam. So we'll head off and get into our day.
Okay. Enjoy.
Right.
This was season 9, episode 30, number 378. Thanks, Gary and Rochelle, for dropping in. Anybody else? We'll catch you later. Peace.
Peace.